iced coffee. Iced coffee. Welcome. Welcome. Monday. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat. Monday the 20th, 2022. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres here in lovely downtown Marion, Michigan. Yeah, what a day. What a day it has been. I think our temps were, oh boy, let's see. What were they? Right now it's 79 degrees, so I guess we probably hit 80 today. And tomorrow we're looking at 91 as the high and 66 as the low, which is kind of nice, actually. I like the cool nights. All right, so Monday, the 20th, we're looking at, let's see. 1, 2, 3. We're looking at about 2.5 weeks until we're going to be on Tribe Day. So 1, 2, about 3 weeks, right? So Tribe Day is going to be on the 9th, July 9th. So it's the same week as the 4th of July. 4th of July this year is on Monday. That's kind of nice. And my schedule kind of looks like this. This time of the year, the main thing that I have to be concerned with is the animals, keeping the animals cool and fed, and then preparing for winter. I'm preparing for winter right now. I'm cutting hay. And the process of cutting hay goes something like this. You got to get all your equipment together, make repairs on it that you didn't do last year that you should have. I didn't have any of those because I did my repairs last year. And then you start cutting. Hay is basically just long grass. So I cut hay off of the poultry field this year because we've had really good weather for growing grass. It is just unbelievably good for growing grass. When it gets really hot, that's not good. And we've had a lot more precipitation than they have told us that we're going to get. Like last night, we got 1/4 of an inch here, and there was no indication that was supposed to happen at all. So we kind of lucked out, and the grass looked really good today. I cut probably 20 acres last week. Let's see, would have been Friday, and let it dry Saturday and Sunday, and then I flipped it today, and it seemed to work out pretty good. I probably could have flipped it yesterday, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because then it would have got rained on last night. So when I say flipping it, I mean we cut it with a hay bine, or sometimes they call it a windrower, or sometimes they call it a swather, or Amish people call it a swatter. But it's a machine that you pull behind the tractor and it mows. I call it a mower sometimes. And then once you've cut the grass, it feeds it up through a set of rollers. They're long rollers. One of them's steel and one of them's rubber, hard rubber, and they roll through there. So the grass gets cut and then it rolls through this roller. And what that does is that crushes the stems and aids in drying. They call it conditioning. They call it the conditioner, right? And then that blows out in kind of a row. usually, like with mine, it's usually about 5 feet wide. And then what you do is you let it dry there for a while and you go over it with a rake, a hay rake, and that flips it over and puts it in a smaller row and kind of puffs it up. So on a day like today, when we had full sun and just a little bit of wind, it's really nice for drying it out. You don't want it too dry. You don't want it to get brittle, but you want to get all the moisture. You want to get a lot of the moisture out. And some people will say, "Oh, you've got to put a moisture meter on it and this and that." But you can check this place here and then go down the row a little while, and you'll check this one, and they're different. So I don't really go by that. I just pick it up, and I kind of twist it a little bit, make sure it's still kind of tough, and just kind of look at it. And all right, that's dry enough. Let's do it. It's not really brain surgery. Some people make it brain surgery, though. They do. And then the next day, like tomorrow, I will pull the baler out. I will go through the baler, make sure it gets all greased and oiled. I will put 4 actually spools of twine in it. And then I will start baling just after lunch tomorrow. And I'll bale everything that I have on the ground right now and get it all baled up. And then when I'm done, I will get back on the tractor and hook up to the mower, and then I have a field in back that I am really looking forward to mowing. I'll mow it again. All right, so what do we got going here? I got a lot of input on here. Mr. Zumwalt is saying it is 98 degrees in Greenbow. Whoa, that is tough. All right, and the Declare Homestead is with us. And Drezed, could you just phonetically spell your first name for me? I cannot sound that out. Andrezej. But if you could phonetically spell that, I will write it down on my blotter here. Lane Buck. Hello, soaker hoses in the garden. Garden looking good. All right. Inga's with us. Hello, hello. Gary Rockwell's with us. Hi from Ohio. All right. How you doing, Gary? Been a while. So today, Jill titled this differently than I asked her to because she didn't like my title. But my title was Endeavoring to Persevere. Right? And maybe some of you know where that comes from. Sherry from Commie, California. You better get out of there. You better get out of there. I used to live there. I used to live in the Los Angeles area. Oof. I don't know what I was thinking. But when I got out of A&P school, Airframe and Power Plant school, I used to watch CHIPS, the California Highway Patrol. And it just looked like a beautiful place, blondes and all that. When I got there, that wasn't quite how it was. Santa Clarita. I know where Santa Clarita. I used to live in Canyon Country. I commuted from Canyon Country down to Burbank. I worked at the Lockheed plant there. Yep. And Dave Smith is with us from Arizona. He's not that high today. Only small H on the high. Western movie series for Endeavor to Persevere. Josie Wales. You're right. You're right. Josie Wales. I have watched that movie more than any other movie made. Right? And it was a strange situation. It's just one of those things. I was on a deployment one time, and that was one of the movies that we had. And so we would come in from work at night in the tent and watch Josie Wales, right? So, and then I liked it. There was some some good parts in that movie. There was some really good parts. But if you ever see a highlight, a reel of all the people that he kills in that, oh man, it's a little crazy, But I've always liked Clint Eastwood, and I thought the character that he plays in Josie Wales is a good character, very good character. It's just he's got a lot of characteristics that I really like. I mean, he just does not back down, and he seems to always have righteousness on his side. He wasn't like the people that he was dealing with that were doing bad things. Inga is saying, hope none of our tribe members fell off their bicycles this weekend. I hope you're right about that. I hope you're right. Yeah. I don't think Joe Biden is part of our tribe, though. Poor old Joe. And that's sad. That's just sad. I don't believe it. I think it's just a weird movie that we're watching here. I just don't believe any of it. And, this is what I wanted to talk about. Green Thing 14. All right, Dion Stumpos here. Good, too. I almost called you. I need to know the status of your butcher shop. I need to know what that's happening there. And I had a bit of a rant last Friday, and I actually got people giving me personal messages saying that they like it. And I've been kind of simmering that all weekend. Had a couple things I had to go do this weekend, family things. And this morning, right after I took my swim, I couldn't do any hay stuff for a while. And so I headed out to my field where I do all my farrowing, all my pigs farrow. And I actually made a video out there because one of my least favorite sows. Okay, phonetic is close to Andre. Okay, Andre. That's easy. And Ray or Andre. Okay, that's easy. I don't even have to write that down. Andre. Good enough. Glad to have you here. Could you tell us where you're from again? Could you please do that? That would be of interest to others, unless somebody else knows. Okay. So I went out and checked pigs, and I've got my little sow by the name of Kamala. Poland, right on. Andre from Poland. And she had 9 nice little babies, and she made a really beautiful area. I put her hut, I rolled it right into the rye. The rye now is like right at eye height, and it's just beautiful. It's thick. They're grabbing the lower pieces of it and chewing it to get the sweetness out of it. And then you'll see these sort of like a ball of chewed up grass, and then they just leave that there. It's kind of interesting. Sometimes they eat it all, but you see a lot of that out there. And I made a video of that because it's such a cool system. Using just what is there. I mean, the most complex part of that system is probably the corral that we use for a loader, and that's because I had to put some hinges on the door and figure out a way to have a cord on there that when I pull it, it'll open the door and then close the door. That's about the most complex part of it. And just managing it with plants is making the whole system really healthy. There's 3 sows out there. There was 6, but I had 3 sows that weren't quite up to snuff. They were half Mangalitsa and half Hereford, and they just never really impressed me as being good sows. Not like the more Mangalitsa sows. So anyway, I knocked them off. They went into the freezer and they're long gone. They've gone down the road many times over now. And so this system was really nice. And I was out there and, when I explained it in the video, in a nutshell, what I said is all of these components of this process that I'm showing you right now, I thought them up and I did it. But I didn't do them in sequence, and I didn't do them all at the same time. If you saw the fence out there, when I first built fence, that is the first place that I built fence here in Michigan, woven wire. It's the first time I ever did it. I had to replace quite a bit of it. That's about the only place I've actually replaced fence because it was so bad. I did such a bad job. All right. All right. Belva's with us. Belva hasn't been around in a while. Good. Glad you're here. Good. Because we're going to talk about some things tonight. So I want you guys here. And this is just sort of a message that came to me. And so then I finished up out there, right? I had to do a couple things out there, just little maintenance things and just looking after the little ones and just checking to make sure that they have everything and getting a solid count on them and things like that. And I left there. I'm feeling pretty good. And I thought, I've got a little bit of time here. I'm going to do a couple more things on this new chicken tractor that I built. It's Generation 6, right? The one that you saw, Dion, last year was Generation 5. And all right, Nancy's with us too, right on. And the changes that I made to go to the Generation 6, we used the Generation 5 for 2 years. And the idea of a prototype like that is to figure out what works and what doesn't work, right? So all the parts, all the processes or the steps that I took in the Generation 5 that didn't work out well for 2 years, I did not include those in the Generation 6. But the Generation 5 did not include a lot of the things that we used in the Generation 4 that we used for 10 years, right? But I was never quite happy with that one. And in the time that we were using it, every time I was moving chicken tractors, I would think, well, this would be a lot better if it was just a little higher, and things like that. The Generation 4 was pretty heavy. It really was pretty heavy. And the way it was constructed was when you had chicken wire that started to rot out, you couldn't just change it, because the way I built it is I sandwiched the chicken wire in between the panels. It's kind of hard to explain without doing a drawing, but then when you would have a section of the fence or the poultry netting that would start to corrode and let go, it was really difficult to make a repair on there that you were proud of, right? All the repairs looked kind of hack, it didn't look good. And then you'd have other sections that you'd start to lose and you had to make repairs there. And so anyway, the last 2 of those went down the road. I sold them to Sam Miner. He's my Marine friend that just got out 6 months ago, retired out of the Marines, and he was in the market for some chicken tractors, so he took the last 2 of them. And then we got serious about building the Generation 6. Anyway, the Generation 6, yesterday I was getting really giddy with it because I was looking at it saying, I like this. And I come in the house and I said, somebody here needs to buy me a steak dinner, because when you see this chicken tractor, you're going to fall down. It's just so awesome. And it's like anything, if you're in something for a while, like when you first get into an organization like the Air Force, you don't know what's going on. But by the time you're there for 20 years, you got everything that's happening. The numbers, the names, the people, everything, how to make everything work. And that's probably why they kick you out at 20. They want you to leave at 20 because you're getting too smart, you know. So that set me to thinking, though, and it was in line with what we talked about last week about affiliate farms. And I was on this rant and I discovered something that, hey, we've got about 8 affiliate farms that have built butcher shops or have broken ground on it or have made a positive step in that direction, at least a positive step in that direction, to where they're going to live captions, keep up the sound on your screen off. That was weird. But anyway, they're going to do on-farm processing. And that is something that, I mean, for me, having been in this for a little while, it's just like a blinking light. You need to do this. You need to do this. That is the choke point. That's where they can squash this. You can raise all these beef, but nobody wants to process them, or you can get them processed, 6 months out. And then when you get there, maybe they just cancel you or whatever. And we're seeing all these processing centers that are just going by the wayside, either spontaneously combusting or things like this. And, when you hear all those stories, you hear all those things, it has kind of an effect on you. Like, you think that there's somebody that's actively trying to create problems in this country. That's the way it looks. And it's not like it's being hidden from us. We see every week there's a processing center that mysteriously burns to the ground, or a plane flies into it that didn't have a pilot, or, something. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on. And we are at this level. This is where we are. This isn't a political show. I'm not commentating on political things that are going on in the state capitol or in Washington. That's not what I'm into. A lot of I find it gross. And so I don't like I would not want to be in politics because of that. The type of person that I am, I like life, and throwing a three-piece suit on 5 days a week to hobnob and try and politically sway people, I'm not really interested in that. This is what I've chosen to do for a career, and so this is what I want to commentate on it. It just so happens we find out, hey, there's other people that want to do this too. I had no idea. I knew a couple people in Montana, but they were professional farmers. I didn't know that there were people, like, say, that had other careers that wanted to do this on the side and then eventually do this for their main gig. I really did not know that. We got here, things changed in the last 18 years that we've been here. Things have changed, right? And people's priorities have changed. The country's changed. And sometimes we think it's for the best, and sometimes we don't. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about tonight. And I'm going to use Tribe Day as an example. All right, we did Tribe Day last year. Where did it start? And I'm glad Dion's here, because maybe Amy's here too. But it was in the next room over. I'm not sure what the occasion was. I'm pretty sure it was in the wintertime. I'm pretty sure we were probably eating soup and talking about hanging around with people who are also into homesteading, are into all the things that we do. We do like probably 25 different processes on this farm between, well, maybe that's a stretch, but a lot of them anyway. And, they're not, always things that you readily associate with a farm. Uh, a foggy February day. But we're able to incorporate it into the homestead life, and then you sort of have another piece of the puzzle on the table. Well, how do I fit this in? Oh, it fits right here. Okay. Oh, this is starting to take shape. I see what's going on. And so we've got people that are coming into homesteading, and in a lot of cases, like I bet you down where Dion lives, he's got people in his neighborhood, in his circle, in their congregation that they go to, the church they go to, that when they start thinking about homesteading, they're saying, hey, because Dion and Amy are the experts down there. Same thing at the Clerks in their neck of the woods. Probably the same thing at the Ice House. Probably the same thing, at Shaw Lake Homestead. Hey, Shaw Lake Homestead. Oh, did you change it? Shaw Lake Homestead or Farm. I like Homestead. And it's very important. Picking your name is very important. I want to talk about that. I don't know if we'll talk about it tonight because, yeah. But, yeah, very, very important, picking names. And Belva, if you have a homestead name there, I'd like to know what that is. I'd like to know your location too. Because what I'm doing is I'm putting together a roster of all of the affiliate farms, and I'd like to put it right up there just for a while, for a week or so, or maybe a little longer. This has been up for a while. Rachel's working a part-time job, so I don't have her at my disposal all the time. But just talking about Tribe Day last year, I've told you guys before. We were sitting talking about the atmosphere when we have a lot of interesting farm people. Restoration Acres, awesome. Restoration Acres, that's really cool. And the energy that you have when you have a lot of these people together. And on our or during our classes, we'll take a break to get something to eat, and you come up here to the house to eat, and it's like fun. I mean, you're hanging out with people that you can sit down and talk with. They have a lot of input. They're fun people. I've always said people that will travel and pay money to learn how to butcher a pig. Those are my kind of people. Okay. Rocking Well Farm on Brush Creek, Hillsboro, Ohio. Rocking Well Farm. Oh, that's right. I remember you guys were redoing your house. That was a log house, if I remember. Okay, so that was just. I think what we were trying to do at the time is trying to encapsulate that feeling that you have when you're around those people. It's like, it's maybe if you used to get into bar hopping, that you do it because it feels good. It's fun. Something about it gives you a tickle, and you say, I want to do this. And but that gets old after a while. But this has not gotten old, and it just gets better every day. Like today, I had the most fun day, and I think I'm going to be able to explain to you why. This is weird. You do this show every night, and so you have to analyze what's going on. And I don't know if you have to. It's just that I do. I analyze, what is this thing that we're doing? Like, where are we going? Why don't you just shut your mouth, put your head down, get on your plow and shut your mouth? I have feelings like that sometimes, but then no, I don't think that that's a good idea because, as I was saying, on our roster of farms that we've got 8 people that we know of right now that have broke ground on a processing center. on their property. That's big. And it's not like we have 10 million people. It's not. We have in the tribe Facebook page, we have like 1.5 thousand, which is that's a lot of people. And in this group, routinely, we have about 240, I think, last time I looked, which was quite a long time ago, that listen to this show on a regular basis. And I would consider those affiliate farms because they're participating in what goes on here. Then we have people who do not listen to this live stream, but have hired us for consulting and have come here and taken classes. And we have people here that have done both, hired us for consulting, come here and take classes, and had us over for dinner, And I always try to be really honest with you guys as far as the economics of the homestead. If you have a nice garden and stuff and you grow an extra row of carrots, that's nice, but you're not going to feed your family if you sell those carrots. You're really not. Taking produce to farmers markets, it's a lot of work, and you're competing with big commercial farms that can produce the stuff very, very cheaply. And so it's very hard to make a living doing it that way. And I think maybe some of the reasons why people would kind of give us a second look is because we are making it work, not with produce for sure. I do a lot of produce, and not that doesn't help with the flow that goes past here of income. It does, but it's not an exclusive thing. It's like we have at least 10 things that flow through this place that we get to take a little bit out of, and then at the end it looks pretty good. Looks adequate anyway. Looks adequate. I wouldn't by any means say, well, we have arrived. I wouldn't say that. But I'm not I got no reason to tell you guys that this is a good way to go. And but you'll only get there if you buy my book. Like, I don't have that ulterior motive. We kind of see that with some of our commentator friends that unfortunately I cannot listen to the doom and gloom. And I will give you an example. Before I do give you an example, I want to keep this straight here. But Tribe Day, it was a foggy day in February. And we were sitting at the table, probably cold. Jill probably brought us a really hearty soup. And there we were. And I think it was Amy that said, you ought to do like a farm camp that's sort of structured like a church camp. And I did church camp for a long time. And church camp was kind of like this. You get up out of the bunks in the morning and you go into the dining facility and you eat. And then from there, the director will stand up and say, okay, we're going to do this today. This group goes here and this group goes here. And then we'll meet at the chapel right before lunch. And then we're going to have lunch. And then we might have game time afterwards, and then hit the pool. And then maybe like some devotional time in the evening. And then, the days kind of go like that. Very fun. You're in with people that are on the same page as you. Everything is really grooving good. And I really like that. I really like that. But Amy's idea was a good idea. Like, so if you were going to do a camp like that, a tribe day, let's say, how would that be structured? We start talking about it, but it started with a statement. You know what you ought to do, she said. And then I was kind of like, I'm always all ears for people with crazy ideas, because can be just a jewel in there. You just have to listen to it carefully. And maybe we wouldn't do it exactly the way she said. Maybe we tweaked it a little bit. I don't really I remember the conversation, but I don't remember nailing it right down then. It was nailed down. Jill was involved with it, and Rachel Jamerson was involved with it, and they kind of pulled it together. I showed up. I cooked the pig. I hobnobbed around. I took care of some kids that day. I missed out on every single class. Yeah, it was Amy. Okay. But had a blast, had an absolute blast because some people came the night before. So we had campfire that night. It was Friday night. Had a blast. I mean, we always have a good time when we get together with those guys. And then the day of was fun. The kids were swimming. We were eating. We barbecued a pig. I mean, just had a good time. Good food, nice people. The day came to a close. I think there was probably 6 blocks of instruction, and these were just people who had discovered a process and said, sure, I'll share with the group what I did. And some of them were quite new at it. Haven was the one that comes to mind. I think he was in after his first, he was probably in his second year of chicken growing out on the field. And he comes from a farm background. So his explanation, I was told, was very good. And I wasn't able to sit in on it. There was this really nice lady that was a young lady, and she had these 2 little kids, like 4 and 6. And those little boys were active. And she could run herd on them, but she couldn't go and sit and absorb anything with those guys. And they weren't brats. There was so much going on and kids and everything. And I just went over to her. I didn't know her. I think she knew me. And I said, do these guys want to go with me for a Jeep ride? And she said, yeah, I think they would. I said, all right, are you going to be in there? She said, yeah. I said, okay, I got them. And then we kind of tooled around a little bit in the Jeep. And then a couple other kids jumped in. And then those boys wanted to get out and they wanted to do something over here. And Beth the cleric was minding her kids. And I said, would you watch these guys? And she said, yeah. But it was that atmosphere where you could hand kids off that you didn't know. And, I hate to say it, but you couldn't do that at the county carnival, Maybe you could. I don't know. But it was a good environment, and it started with just an idea. All right, and this is how the idea went. And I'm going to try and weave this into my point of how I have proceeded, and I'm starting to figure out why it works. And I'm not here to say, well, you need to do this. I'm not going to do that. That's not my role. I'm just saying, well, it's what worked for me. All right, that day when she said that, everybody in the room, I was probably the biggest negative Nelly. It was kind of like, oh boy, here we go again, another thing we got to do. But I didn't say it, right? But Jill and Dion and Amy were just, and they got Rachel involved, and it just exploded, with enthusiasm. And I don't remember ever hearing anybody say, well, it'll probably rain that day. Some kid will step on a nail. Some kid will fall in with the pigs and get torn to shreds. You better have insurance because somebody will sue you. That type of thing. Like, well, I don't know. You get a lot of people together like that, you might have, a Biden supporter in there, something like that. There was none of that. There was no enunciating of a possibility of a disaster. There was none of that. None. Like, we have get-togethers here all the time or events. I never take out insurance, and I don't think I ever will. I don't want to say definitively that, but in a way, you're kind of setting yourself up, because if you have an insurance policy, you're going to get sued for it if somebody gets hurt. But I never do, because I just always think that this is going to work out good. I just like with the Generation 5 chicken tractor. Is that the one I'm going to use? No, I went to the Generation 6. Why? Because I learned stuff on the Gen 5. I learned stuff. What did I learn? I learned what didn't work. And I think back on the Tribe Day last year, I know where we had the serving tables. And I tell you what, when the serving table is like this, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Didn't think anything of it when I set it up. It's like, what? Stuff going to fall off? And we did have a bit of a crash. Some stuff just slid right off. Yeah, won't do that again. All right, won't do that again. I'll figure someplace else to do it, right? So my point is, when you go into this, my point is, as I have progressed in this homesteading career field, it is a career field, right? And we have to treat it as though it's a career field. We can't treat it as hobby farmers. You can't do that. Hobby farmers? What do you mean hobby? Was that a hobby steak that I had for dinner the other night? No, it was butchered right here. I know of farms that refer to us as hobby farms, and all they really do is feed animals, and they don't even create the feed, and then they ship them, and they don't even have the trailers to ship them, but they refer to us as hobby farm because what? I don't know. We're diversified, like we do a bunch of different things. And one of them that I can think of, they actually bring their chickens to us to process them. I should say, well, you're pros though, ain't you? Like, we're just a hobby farm. How come you don't do that? I have some writing on the bottom of my screen, and it's almost like like a dictaphone type thing. I've never had that before. So anyway, maybe this is from my training in Boy Scouts, might be the people that I had as Boy Scout leaders. It's not like we didn't train each other how to like bandage wounds or treat bee stings or other things like that. We did. And we actually, I had 2 different outings with the Scouts, and one of them was really bad. A kid fell down and got skewered by a stick in a bad way. And I'll never forget that. He was peeing blood and everything. It was bad. And then on the way home, the kid sitting next to me threw up. But it was always optimistic, right? There was always optimism that this evening, at mealtime, they might be having those red hot dogs that we really like, optimism. And I really don't like to be around people who are, well, I don't, probably, you remember Gulliver's Travels? There was that little character. His name was Glum. And whenever somebody would come up with a good idea, he would say, "It'll never work." Right? Remember that guy? And if you remember from that, and also from Winnie the Pooh, there was Eeyore, and Eeyore was always like kind of, "Oh, it'll never work," or somebody will get hurt, or something. I mean, he was always like very negative. And the storyline never ended up going the way Glum said or the way Eeyore said. Never did, right? So maybe that's just a way writers do things. They have that particular character, but I don't. The more I am in this, and I've been that character before. If my wife's listening, she's going to be saying, "Yeah, right," because I've been that character before. I even last week, uh, I'm working, trying to cut hay and trying to, get this farm going, and now somebody's going to come because they want to show me their brand new baby, right? And I just, come on, I don't have time for this. But when I slowed down and I thought about it, what a total victory that is, that some people, young people feel like they want to present their brand new baby to me and Jill for like approval. And I did. I held that baby and I forgot about everything once I had that baby in my hand. It was like 2 weeks old, brand new baby. It's neat. It's pretty neat that somebody will hand a baby to you. It's sort of like Derek Jackson handed me a loaded 45. It really brought tears to my eyes. So the Tribe Day 2021 turned out to be a gas. It was, and I mean that by saying good. It was not a gas attack. It was fun. We really had fun. I look back on it. I say, wow, we had a good time. I mean, there's a couple bumps in the road and stuff, but overall, we had a really fun time. Met a lot of people that I would not have met otherwise. I just would not have met them. There's Luann. Met Luann. She was here. She's going to be here this year too. But what has served me, like I was out of myself today, and I'm looking at the chicken tractor that I built. That, yeah, I did a good job on that. I mean, but I've kept at it for like 18 years, right? So, you fortify your position, you keep working at something, you just don't quit, and it's going to get better with time. It's going to get better. And this one is, I mean, I don't have any tattoos, but I may get a tattoo of this chicken tractor just to commemorate it. I'm not kidding. It's that good. Somebody should buy me a steak dinner. It could revolutionize the farming industry, actually. But I kind of looked at my commentary about that from outside of myself, and people might say, well, what is it that's working here? Why is it that you're able to do this and stay with it and stay enthusiastic and all that stuff? And I got to tell you, it's optimism. In everything that I'm doing, there's a part of it that I don't like. I'm not kidding you. There's a part of it I don't like. And sometimes I just have to motor on through that. But then I think to myself, yeah, but as soon as I'm done with that, then I got this. And I like doing this. And I go on to it. And sometimes I actually kind of have fantasies about what's going to happen, right? I have fantasies. And, like my fantasy today, and I don't want you guys to think that I'm going off my rocker, a fantasy. I'm thinking about the process that I'm doing. Here I am out there. I was raking hay, and I'm, getting ready to bale it up and move it into the barn and feed it to my cattle and all that stuff. And as I'm raking the hay, I'm on the center field on our farm. I'm watching my cows. Every time I go around, there they are, looking good. I'm getting ready to have a calf here soon, and had a big glass of milk at lunchtime. And Jill makes the best cheese that you ever had in your life. And it wasn't always that good, I didn't think, but it is good now. And I started thinking about the process and the process of what I'm doing. When I look back and I think about the very first day that I was out there with an old hay bine. Well, the one I got now is old, but it's in better condition, and a baler that you don't even see them anymore. It was chains and pipes. That it was just this contraption. I made a couple of bales, but then I saw the pipes piling up behind there, and I said, I can't do this. And so I traded it in, and I think they gave me a little bit for it. I didn't pay too much for it, but anyway, I think back on that, and I think, wow, why didn't I wonder why I didn't throw the towel in. I didn't know how to cut hay. I had never done it. I kind of thought when I came here that there'd be somebody I could ask, No, that's not. I didn't have that option at first. And I've really had most of it I figured out. I have one farmer friend that's close that I can ask him stuff. But that's about it. I don't really have those options right now. So, what is it that keeps a guy going? And what is optimism? What is optimism? What is it? Like when I think about my fantasy of, hey, next year, it includes a new farm tractor, which the farm tractor that I got last year, I was all excited about. It's in the shop right now because it's broke. And I'm waiting to hear from the expert about what's wrong with it. And I could use it, but it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I did not buy that John Deere 2020 and think, man, this thing's going to break and we're not going to be able to get it fixed. We're going to have to spend a lot of money to get it fixed. I didn't think that. It did happen that way. But then I thought, well, I'm glad we got somebody that can fix it because we sure can't. We can't get it to go. So he's got it now, and I don't know. I hope it's something simple. I really do, because I just do. I mean, nobody says, "Oh, I hope it's an expensive repair." I hope he tells me that you can't repair it. It's only good for scrap metal, so then I'll be out a bunch of thousands of dollars. But I don't think about it that way. I think about, I'm going to get that back, and it's probably going to run better than it did before, and I will love that tractor, and I will ride it into the sunset. That's the way I choose to look at it, right? But actually, my fantasy goes a little further than that, because I start thinking about a diesel tractor that's like my loader tractor that I'm using, but that's a little bit bigger and maybe has a canopy over it. And then I start thinking, oh, how would it be if we were in air conditioning right now? And I'm like, nah, I don't want air conditioning. It's too fun to be out there and doing. The amount of hay that I really cut is actually quite small in the scheme of things. So I'm cutting about 70 acres total, which is not a lot. Some people would even say, you're better off just hiring it out. But to me, I've considered that, but to me, it's the process of doing it. Like when I'm feeding those bales to my cows, it's like victory. I baled this hay. This came off my place. I know it's clean hay. I know it doesn't have any, stuff that I don't want the cows eating, because I drink their milk and I eat their flesh. I don't want it sprayed with gross stuff. So, optimism for me, it's almost like a drug, actually, because it gets in my head and it cheers me up and motivates me and makes me feel like everything's going to be okay. There are times, and I'm not like that all the time. Like a lot of times I wake up in the morning and it's like, what am I doing here? Like I'm doing what? This, But then as the day goes on, you're like, okay, I like this. This is good. I can really throw myself into this. Yeah, this is there. This is what it's all about. This is growing food, living in a decent place, and then having fellowship with decent people. There it doesn't really get that much better than that. At this time, I've been in with people. I've been friends with people who were very powerful people and commanded a ton of respect and had lots of money, like lots of money, lots and lots of money. And I'm not saying they didn't work hard to get it, but there was something that you could, in every case that I encountered, there was something that was missing. And I wasn't missing that. Right. So dollars are not it. That's just like an advertising campaign. Like they want you to work hard for dollars, and someday you'll have this, and someday you'll have this, and someday you'll have this. But what you don't realize is you work hard for those dollars, get yourself educated, but they're taking like 30% of it from you before you ever get it. So yeah, they're encouraging you for sure. They're encouraging you. But this is kind of a side note, but when you kind of work for yourself, it's harder for them to get their hooks into your what you produce, So it's not impossible for them, but it's a little bit more difficult than if you have a job and your employer, before he writes you the check, he writes them a check, right? He takes it from you and gives it to them, right? So anyway, that's just kind of a side note. That's actually kind of negative. I don't even like to think about that. Anyway. Yeah, Luan saying you are manifesting through your visions and joy of your purpose. I would agree with that, but I think it goes a little further than that, right? Now, if I had said a bunch of negative things about, say, Tribe Day from last year, if I had done that, which, hey, there's a temptation, there really is a temptation. There's, it's there to like, oh, yeah, say something. But if you say it, I think that your subconscious has a way of guiding it that way. But if you are focused on a successful operation and you start saying, okay, I need to have this done, this done, this done, this done, even when you miss stuff, you're still able to work around it. Very rarely do I hit a stone wall. I'll give you an example. We did the pastured poultry class a couple weeks ago, and I'm not exactly sure why. We had 24 people. Normally we'll have about 5 or 6. But people were really leaning forward. They were really enthusiastic, and there was a sense of urgency. But people are supposed to show up at 9:00. They're so urgent that they started showing up at 8:00. And what do they want to do? They want to talk to me. And so I get kind of distracted because I'm thinking, okay, they're going to start wheeling in at 9 when they're supposed to be here, but not 8. And so guess what I didn't do? I didn't light the scalder. I totally forgot it. And we came out from lunch and I was like, that's going to take like an hour and a half to heat up. But I had a fire going under the hog scalder. And so I didn't even say anything. I just said, okay, we're going to scald them here. Yeah. So we did a workaround. It worked fine. For me, thinking Friday night that tomorrow's going to be a blast. When Saturday came, I was like ready to have fun. And it was fun, right? So I was talking with one of my kids about, what I am doing. and what my previous job was like in the Air Force and how it equates to this. And I said to him, I want to get you out there on the tractor cutting hay because someday this will be what you do. And he was like, cutting hay. It's like, and I said, yeah, I kind of used to feel that way. But I tell you what, I love cutting hay. I'm out there. It smells good. I'm by myself. When you think about a bale of hay, what it's worth, and I'm making that, I make a lot of them per hour. It's probably a lot better than working a job, a whole lot better than that. And then once I run it through my cows, oh yeah, it's pretty lucrative. And I said, I love doing this. I absolutely love doing this. I like plowing snow. And when I said that to him, that I love doing this, when I went out, I had to think to myself, do I really? And then I'd say, I really do. This is really cool. I get to see a bald eagle once in a while. Today I was cutting hay. My cows are here, and there's a whole herd of deer, and they weren't 30 feet apart. And they're comfortable together, Well, I probably shouldn't say that. That gives somebody a good idea. Oh, you've got to put up higher fences to keep the deer out of your cows because they could pass pathogens. I think they probably already said stupid stuff like that. But anyway, those guys are totally irrelevant in what we're doing, completely irrelevant. It's just so the power of optimism, and optimism is you're writing the script and then you're going to act it out. We're not going to write the script for Tribe Day 2022 saying, it's going to rain that day, probably hail the size of peaches. No, we're going to say it's probably going to be a nice day. Even if it isn't a nice day, I'm going to have fun because I'm going to be with people that are fun. So that optimism is maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. I had an extremely fun day raking hay today by myself. The clarity of thought was there. I'm starting to be able to plan ahead quite a ways and watch the pieces drop in place. I did listen to some stuff today, and I purposely, the other night, something came up on my feed. You guys might want to check it out. It's called The Soft White Underbelly. And this just shows up. And this was the soft white underbelly and it's an interview with different types of people. A homeless guy, a drug addict, a hitman, a mafia hitman, and all these different interviews that you can, a guy who, a tranny, what do they call them now? Trannies, and decided he wanted to be a woman. So it was like a Bruce Jenner scenario. There was another one of a prostitute. And I listened to 2 or 3 of them. Oh, there was this one. This gal was a masochist. So she gets off on people beating her up or cutting or stabbing or bloodletting. And I forced myself to listen to it because I just I was listening for BS is what but fairly young chick, 34 years old and all scarred up. The only way she can, I'm not going to have kids and doesn't want to be married and drugs and all that stuff. Doesn't look good. Really overweight. But she was telling us that this is the way to go. Like getting stabbed with needles is just so euphoric. And I mean, if she's into it, great. But as I listened to it, I thought, wow, I'm glad I don't have to deal with any of that. So it gave me a perspective. And then shortly after that, there was a homesteading thing that came up, and it was a Canadian dude, and he was an off-grid guy, and his subject was the cook stove. I love cook stoves, right? Having a cook stove central to the house that you actually cook on. So when you get up in the morning, you fire that baby up, and that's what you're going to cook breakfast on, and it's going to warm up that space. And you're feeding it pieces of wood. These days, fuel is on everybody's mind. If you don't have to worry about heating your house and you can just heat it from the trees and stuff around you, well, that's a good workaround. You know, you could dedicate the money that you save on heating oil or electricity to gasoline. And then when you get a few extra bucks, bring the gasoline home and put it in a tank. And then you're able to look at it and say, well, I've got 300 gallons of that stuff. So I bought 300 gallons of it when it was, you know, 230. And now so I'm making money on the gasoline that I bought, because I'm not buying all 300 gallons. Might seem like a lot, but when you're doing a farm operation, you go through it, and you know. So I did get quite a bit of perspective off that, and people that are in a really rough predicament like that, I'm sure they would kill to be able to just bear down and do what we're doing, and be able to live this kind of lifestyle. I wanted it for a long time, and I couldn't have it because I was in the service and it just wasn't available to me. And when we got the opportunity to move to a small place, we took it, and then it went from there, and we stepped to this place. And I think this is it. We've expanded the property here, but I don't think we're going to move from here. This doesn't seem like anything that I want to move away from, because there's so much more potential here for the work that we're doing. So, and for me, I've mentioned this before, that, owning a summer home, it could work that into the business, right? So we have a summer home on the lake or something, but I don't know. That is not really for me, because like I've told you guys, at this point in my life, my work is important to me. And I still have young kids that need to be mentored. And I don't know if you can do that at a summer home. I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, we're going to stay with what we got. Let me see what's going on here. I got to read some of these things. If anybody wants to comment on the things that I've said about optimism, I would love to hear it. I think, too, what I said on Friday night, it's just like one of those things that you say, but we really should be like auditing each other. Like I could say to another farm, maybe not an audit, that's probably not the right word, but helping each other to grow this thing. Like when I do consulting, sometimes it's very rudimentary. People don't have a farm, so it's sort of like, well, what do you want to do? Oh, raise chickens. But somebody who has mastered that, and then they've mastered the processing, gardening, many, many things, then it's a more advanced conversation. I think it's a more advanced conversation, and I think we need to be doing that. And we're going that direction. That's what Tribe Day is about, right? Okay. Shaw Lake Homestead, right on. I like that. Andy agrees with me about career field. Yep. Well, hobby farm, the way it's used, it's sort of a slam. I mean, you're thought of as like one time my father-in-law said to me, he says, all you guys do is diddle around all day. I was like, you have no idea what I do in the course of the day. But he just made an assumption that we're a hobby farm, so we're just fooling around all day, right? I've heard that, and it was tough. It was tough, incorrect too. Incorrect. We're not in any kind of hard model that somebody else controls. Like I didn't borrow money from a lending institute that says you need to have more cows if you want money from us. I didn't do that. I'm making decisions based on what's best for this operation. And in my case, I'm looking out for my wife and a couple kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. Well, actually, all 8 of them. But there's no input from outside of this farm as how we're going to do anything. I've made it that way. It's like, I don't care what you guys think I need to do. It does not matter to me because I don't see, right? Like I'm going to copy these guys, right? Like I'm going to copy them, right? Oh yeah, so I can pass on a lot of debt to my children and live poor and never know what's going to happen and have no control over my destiny. Oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I don't like that hobby farm thing. I really don't. There's freedom in what I'm doing, freedom to bob and weave and change what I'm doing, and I don't call that hobby farming. They can say what they want. It doesn't matter. All right. Enthusiasm is a choice. It is. It is. Enthusiasm and optimism, they're not interchangeable. They're not interchangeable, I don't think. Optimism is when you're believing the best is going to happen, kind of like the Pollyanna model. But when people say the Pollyanna model, they're actually slamming optimism. But if you ever watch that, that movie Pollyanna, it was her positive outlook on life that actually charted her her destiny, right? So you can chart your own destiny, and that doesn't go over well with some communities, like because then you're the master of your own destiny. You can be miserable if you want. I tell you what, if you want to live under the bridge, you can do it. You can do it. It doesn't take a lot of skill to do that. Just get you some Ripple or some MD 2020. You're going to need a lot of it. Okay. Andy, I was 30 early to hog harvest. Oh, 30 minutes. Yeah. Didn't want to go to flight office late for yeah. It's usually Andy was in the air farce and I was too. And if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. You are late. So Luann, I dove in the pool. That was a success. Right on. It was. That took a lot of gusto to do that. Like we went out there and went swimming in the morning, and like I challenged people Saturday night around the campfire. Well, you guys are going to swim with us in the morning? And here it is. It's July. It's not like a big deal, but swimming in when we're breaking the ice, that's a little bit. I took a dip right before I came on, so I'm sitting here in my bathing suit, and I just threw on a clean shirt. Okay, Abundant Living is saying Tribe Day 2022. Sign up if you haven't already, so we know you're coming. All right. Dion is saying accountable. Accountable? Accountable. I lost the Oh, did it? It got down to 45 the night before trip day last year. Okay. Well, I'm not real impressed with the water being a little chilly in the summertime, because when you go in and there's ice and you have to break the ice to get in, that's cold. Yeah, that's right. Dion is certified for winter cold dipping. That is right. I think he did get the Baker's Green Acres certification for polar swimming. AIM 2. Luann says Pollyanna was one of my all-time favorites. Huh. That kind of fits. You know what? It kind of fits. Bridge down by the river. Yep, bridge down by the river. That's right. That's right. There is a video. All right. Well, I hope that helps. Optimism in everything that we do. And, it's like excellence follows. We had this thing in the Air Force for a while, excellence in all we do, right? Well, a lot of times it was coerced. It was like, you're going to do a good job, the best you can, and then I'm going to check it, and then I'm going to make sure you do it until it's great. And then I can report to my bosses that, oh, yeah, we did a great job. We do the best we can, or excellence in all we do, sir. But it's coerced. It's not like, you are working it on your own and you take pride in, every aspect of it. There were things in the Air Force like that. There was a couple of things like that. They're few and far between, though, I got to say, because anytime that you wandered off the reservation and did things a little different, you would get pulled in back on track really quick. And I'm not slamming the Air Force at all. It's got to be like that for a reason, because there has to be a standardization of how things are done. That's just the way it is. Aviation is like that in general. It's standardized. You don't deviate from the way we do things. And generally in aviation, the way we do things is the right way. It is. I kind of made mention of this chicken tractor that I built, the Generation 6 work of art, actually. And I mentioned some of the training that I had in aviation before I was in the Air Force. And general aviation is, some of those aircraft are built with steel tubing that they create the frame with, and then they cover it with fabric, and then they put dope on the fabric, and it shrinks down, and the wings are actually fabric wings. Dope and fabric is what they call it. And I was trained on that, and I'm actually using some of those techniques as I'm building this tractor. And it's nice to be able to, I wonder if there's other techniques that, if I had been trained as an HVAC mechanic, or I had been trained as I don't know, can't think of anything else right now. Let's say a paramedic. Would that affect the way I build this chicken tractor? I don't know. I'd probably be using like tape to build it. Oh, put some tape on that. How about some Band-Aids? Wrap some Band-Aids around that. That'll make that work. Or some surgical tubing. Tie it off with surgical tubing. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Anyway. Okay. All right. Well, great. Hour and a half. We're going to come back tomorrow night, and we'll have some more conversation. Tomorrow night, I want to move this idea down the field of affiliate farms. I'm not sure if that's the word we want to use, but we've been doing this a long time. Let's have a list of the farms and where they are that are all part of this tribe. And let's go from there. Let's go from there. I want to see the names. I want to see the locations and all that. It should be a line item like Stumpo's Abundant Acres and Muskegon, Michigan. And then probably we put it on a spreadsheet so you could say all the different functions that they do. Okay, beef cattle, check. Milk cattle, check. Processing, check. You know, swimming pool, check. Pasture poultry, check. Okay. All right, Nance. Shaw Lake Homestead. All right. I'm going to get going. I'll see you guys. Thanks for coming.